Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger, 103.3 FM, and streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Also, don't forget to download the 1130 The Tiger app. We're joined now by I'm going to be honest with you, they shouldn't be a 4 seed. Beth Tarina just told us they shouldn't be a 4 seed. The 48-win Southeastern Louisiana Lions, their head coach Rick Fremin joins us. Coach, number one, incredible rally for you to win the Southland Tournament and get into the NCAAs. Let's go back to that. Tell me about your players finding the toughness to overcome a loss, overcome a review when it looked like that there was, the play called out at second base and it looked like McNeese had won the thing and they were celebrating, and then it gets overturned and you have to kind of marshal yourself. Tell me about that experience and the toughness your team showed.
Sure, absolutely. First of all, it was just a long couple of weeks, because we're the only conference in the nation that was playing 2 weeks of a conference tournament. So to be able to win the bracket play there in Hammond and then have to go on the road to Lake Charles in a very tough environment to win in, and you could, just the history and stats speak for themselves on how tough they are there in Lake Charles. But, we lose in walk-off fashion in game one, and then shut them out in game two. And, you're on that roller coaster of just trying to empty the tank in game three. And it's not looking good being down by 4. But the team just kept saying, we got it. We're going to walk it off. So I just basically went back in the coach's box, got out of their way, and watched the fireworks go off. But it was one of the most exciting, unbelievable finishes I've ever seen and had the privilege to be a part of.
You talked after the game about how this team was different, and you've obviously, like last year's team, you beat Clemson a couple of times and got to face Alabama in a regional final. Nearly made your way into the supers. You've won 40 games multiple times. This is nothing new. Why did you talk about how this team is different?
Well, I think the different piece comes in is last year's team was with us for a long period of time. 2 to 4 years. Those players were in our system. They knew what I was thinking. Generally, I'd always tell them try and get a step ahead. But and they followed the process over a long period of time, which allowed us to make really a significant special run in program history last year. But what a lot of people don't know is we had 12 seniors a year ago. Mm-hmm. There's 15 new players on the team. Other than Chloe McGee and Maria Detillier, that's the only 2 players at the same position from a year ago. So everybody's either new or like Maddie Watson, she slid into another spot. So the pitching staff's new. Both catchers are new. The entire outfield starters were new. And so that's when, it makes it a little bit more special on how they were able to retain information and get a system under their belt really quickly, and the standard of what we wanted to maintain our culture. And then to not only get in the 40-win column, but to break the school record. I mean, we hit 40, and then we hit 47 3 years ago, and then 47 again last year, and now 48. It's just overwhelming. So that's kind of why they're special, but they're also special when you hear their story. From a faith standpoint, all the way from our team retreat in August till now, and just players really trying to work on self-improvement and be the best version of themselves and put aside foolish ways and really become mature both on and off the field. And when you see that growth in anyone, regardless of what we're talking about, it's just special. So that's how I would attempt to put it into words.
You talk about the system and learning the system, and obviously what you guys do is different from just about what anyone else does. The aggression on the base paths, you lead the nation in triples, you lead the nation in stolen bases. But I'm going to just go ahead and guess, Rick, and I don't know this isn't an official stat, but I'm going to guess you lead the nation in most extra bags taken, just in general, right? Because, 3-game set y'all had in Natchitoches, and it's every time you turn around, the right fielders, lollygagging, throwing the ball back in, and that girl's going from second to third. There's a ball that maybe gets away from the catcher, not enough for most teams to try to do something. Your teams are moving up 60. When you talk about your system, how do you teach not only aggression, but also smart aggression? Because your teams don't get thrown out a ton.
Sure. There's obviously there's an aggressive mindset in that, as you mentioned, and we want them to be able to see different reads and cues um, as they're happening, but technically to be looking for them before they happen. So, because this game, is played very, very quickly. I believe it's getting faster as time goes on, and the ability to take an extra bag, turn a single into a double, double into a triple. There's an art to that, and yes, you need talented players, but they also need a softball IQ to play in the system and to be able to not, as you mentioned, in a sense, be foolish and run us out of innings. And we do that at times because there is a learning curve within a system. But, day 1 and 2, our players are learning how to run. And a lot of teams don't work on that. So we focus on that because that's a lot of, other than taking a pitch in a box and waiting on a pitch on defense, you're really running everywhere you go. So, and different teams are built, some on power, some are in the circle, some are on speed. We try and build a balanced attack, and just with elite talent or players that we feel have a high ceiling to fit into the system of that aggressiveness. So that's what I would say to answer your question there.
Talking to Rick Fremin, the head coach of Southeastern Louisiana softball. They're heading not too far. They don't have to go too far to play in the NCAA tournament. They're in the Baton Rouge Regional, just a few miles west of Hammond, America, into Baton Rouge. Coach, you played in the Tuscaloosa Regional last year. I was always of the opinion when we went to the NCAA tournament, I wanted a road trip. I wanted someplace I'd never been. In 18, when the Demons went, we got to go to Corvallis, Oregon. I don't know that I'll ever go back to Oregon. I don't know, but I got a chance to go to Corvallis, Oregon. Given your druthers, would you rather make a road trip, or is it almost cooler to be able to just go 20, 30 miles down the road and play at a place that you're very familiar with?
Well, I think you bring up great points, and you mentioned Beth mentioned something earlier. So I think the pluses and minuses of everything would be this. I was shocked we were a 3 seed, and a lot of other people were as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's fine. That we weren't, the 3 seed similar to last year. There's more wins, and I don't know necessarily. They look at the whole body of work, and so that plays a big factor in where you're headed, and when the committee is trying to lay this whole thing out. And I'm on the regional advisory committee. I'm not on the national committee, but at the same time, we went from 5 power conferences to 4. So that changes that dynamic as well. And I believe it just makes it harder for everyone. And I told everyone the committee has a very hard time on laying this out and it being fair and equal and the 400-mile radius and where we're headed. But to hone in on your question, at the end of the day, I like playing people we have not played before.
Mm-hmm.
I like seeing the sights of where we've not been before, both personally and as a club. And so, that's why we flew our team out to California last year. And 3 years ago, we went down to South Florida just to give them a different region, to let the National Raiders see our team on dirt. And I thought there was a small chance we maybe could have went up to Oregon. And then I thought there was a small chance we could have went back to Tuscaloosa. But I was probably 80%, 75, 80% set knowing that we were headed to Baton Rouge. Now, the pluses of that is, we have a lot of South Louisiana talent. All these parents get to knock off of work or take off of work or play hooky and be in Tiger Stadium on Friday. And I believe it's going to be a special place. It is a traditional program that has a lot of substance to it on moving on to the next level with Supers and World Series and a lot of talent and a lot of great coaches that have come through that program. So we're familiar with them. We've played them in February. We played them in the fall. We played them last year, and all of those are all one-run losses, either in the bottom of the 7th or extras. So, man, it takes a toll on your club, and it takes a toll on you as a coach, but there's nothing like a Friday night lights ball game there in Baton Rouge against the Tigers. So you got the big cats that are going to be playing, the Lions and the Tigers, and we're looking forward to it.
No Bears, just Huskies and Huskers. Unfortunately, no Bears in the regional. But speaking of,
That's right.
how do you go about, obviously Nebraska, UConn, a couple of teams that are somewhat unfamiliar. How do you go about scouting? And because you're going to see one of them at some point.
Sure. We played Nebraska a few years ago in New Mexico. Some of the players are still on the team, so we're familiar with them. And obviously, Jordy Ball in the circle, just a phenomenal athlete, transferred from Oklahoma, puts up video game numbers on both sides of the ball. And so, and then UConn, and not to mention Nebraska's offense with sitting right around almost 100 home runs, and then UConn's offense with 70-plus home runs in their first regional. So you got to do your homework. You got to put a scouting report together for all three teams because this bracket happens very quickly. Win or loss, you're playing the next day against some other opponent. You do know who it may be because it's only four of us there. It's not going to be yourself. So you get the best three scouting reports you can in a timely manner. You prepare your team going in for all three. And obviously you do hone in on the first game because that's very important and with a familiar opponent. But you just the analytics and the data and the video is so far out there now compared to how it was 10 years ago. Whatever information you want, whether your program wants to pay for it or you want to sit there and put in time behind the screen to put together a good report. And that's what I want to compliment our staff on through the last 4 years. And they don't get enough praise in this. They put in a lot of time to put a lot of information on the table for our players to be successful.
Last thing before I let you go, Coach, the
Yes,
base
sir.
running, the stealing, the extra bases, that's all flashy. But this year's team is so well built on both sides. Your pitching staff, as you mentioned, basically brand new, has been so good for you this year. What's that been like for you? Because you've had great pitchers in the past, don't get me wrong, but top to bottom, your staff, I mean, you don't have a kid that's got more than 11 innings that has an ERA of over 2.5. What's that been like having that component to add to what you do offensively?
Well, the goal always is to try and get the staff ERA to 1.8 or below. And I feel from a national standpoint, you can compete on that level. And we use a variety of arms with different looks, and we look at matchups. And, I'm an old Moneyball guy. I enjoy the movie and those stories and kind of how they do things and dig into some of that. But then we go by the eyeball test because, those machines and data can't measure guts and competitiveness and heart. So I look into a lot of that as well. But our staff, you're right, they've been ranked in the top 10 all year long and have complimented one another. They celebrate one another's accomplishments. I just try and tell them to band together and stick together, that we're not gonna run one arm out there the entire season. Now, if one of y'all want to get after it and do it, and you want the ball in your hand, then go prove it to us. But they've been a special group when it comes to being a new group and having to get past the learning curve and to pitch efficiently and have good command and hit spots and attack those zones. So they've done a great job of that.
Coach, congratulations on an incredible season. Hopefully it continues for you guys. Would love to see y'all break through. You got so close last year. Hopefully this is the year y'all can break through. Best of luck coming up this weekend.
Patrick, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure visiting with you, and all the best to you as well.
All right, thank you. It's Rick Fremin, the head coach of the Southeastern Louisiana softball squad.